losses to LNG, but he still managed to look pretty okay in that game. But it's just been a very successful pick in general. One of the things which RareRatm have done very well, though, outside of that, has been having a very solid bot lane with stuff like the Varus they've just picked up for Sssum to be just a rock in this bot lane to say, we will reach mid-game, we will be able to team fight, because you can't exploit a bot lane like a Varus and the pairings that they put alongside it.
Yeah, you just can't let that one go through. We have seen a lot less of the Heimerdinger coming out, and honestly, that's just been kind of a global feature, I feel like, because of one, bans, and two, I agree that it's good, but it's it just feels like people have found answers to it. A lot more creativity coming out in that bot side. Of course, Keria bringing in the ADCs is saying, like, you know, what's better than one ADC? Two ADCs. And you know what? Sometimes with Jayce, three ADCs or Tristana in the mid lane. So we'll see how this draft ends up kind of formulating right now. It is a bit of a flex pick, can go mid or into top lane. So RA in an opportunity here to try and maybe just solidify their bot side and their jungle, and then wait until those next round of bans come through to see where they want to try and throw into those solo lanes.
Okay, so we've got the most played AD carry and the most played jungler for both these players on RareRatm. Leyan has been a very good clutch initiator. And now having stable bot side clutch initiator, I really like this because, again, a little bit earlier, I got to bring out the whole disappointed Nymaera because RareRatm were kind of playing away from their strengths, and I think it really showed against Top Esports that they tried to go towards hyper early game where they tried to flip lanes and stuff like Draven Nautilus, and Leyan was you know, on a couple of other picks besides that Vi. And now going back to this comfort, I look at Anyone's Legend now across the rift, and I'm like, if you're playing RareRatm who are just going back to basics for themselves, they have shown they're very successful with that. Whereas, you know, where have you even started with on this roster? They're going to get themselves that Maokai at the end of it. They have themselves a flex pick of this Jayce between mid and top lane. But if it does go to ZDZ, I'm a little bit worried for what has shown to be normal for them, basics for them, which hasn't worked so far, which is ZDZ not really having the time of his life in that top lane.
Yeah, he's struggled, to say the least. We have brought that up plenty of times, and I'm sure we'll bring it up plenty more depending on how this one goes. I will say, though, with the Maokai locked in, it does keep that flex for that Jayce into the mid lane, so I do like AL's drafting style at the moment. They're kind of saying, look, we're getting ourselves plenty on the board. Even the Ashe, to an extent, can be flexed into the ADC instead of support, so figuring out where they want to try and take that particular setup. I love the way that you have to
phrase that, because like, oh, the Ashe can be flexed to AD carry. We are so used, we've been so used, we've been conditioned to Ashe support that we just accept it as normal. What has League of Legends become? It's like, you go back to Season 6 with the Miss Fortune support space, I was like, wow, mind-blowing stuff. No, this is many years later, and things have changed a little bit. What hasn't changed is that we have a couple of these bans in the second round, which we are seeing a fair bit, particularly that Rise. The Silas more so as well once you get around to later picks. It's less of a blind pick nowadays, but very good on kind of the 4 or 5 pick bans to stop some of the creativity coming out of that top side as well.
Speaking of creativity, something that has many ways of making a 1v1 seem fair and unfair at the same time. The K'Sante being banned away, and now you will have your first pick. I imagine this to be the support, so you will lock in your bot lane. You already know you're going into a Varus Karma in that lane, so we'll see if this is going to be the Heimerdinger now locked in here with an Ashe Heimerdinger versus a Varus Karma. That's a hell of a lot of pushing power. It feels like whoever gets the first foot forward is going to have such an edge in that bot side. As AL just going to say, yeah, we're going full arms race. We're going to look for this and try and make this as potent and volatile as possible.
I'm not going to lie. SwordArt has played a lot of the Heimerdinger. This will be the 4th game on that champion, and it hasn't impressed me so far. Betting SwordArt, they have managed to get some lane control through picks like this. Even against something like a Varus Karma, they can sometimes struggle to clear the turrets at level 1, because if you go into lane as Heimerdinger, put down 3 turrets, and then kind of like, and they get cleared, you still have time when the wave gets you to put down more turrets at that point. So even Varus Karma can struggle on that front, and this cast has now completely changed issue. Because we have an Ahri.
Nymaera.
Strive has left the Ahri. Now, for those of you that have not been inducted into my shrine of Ahri, I play this champion an awful lot. I have over 1 million master points in this champion. So now this will be just judging how Strive builds and plays this champion alongside Leyan's Vi. You have the Ahri and the Vi, which can be a real burst combo, and there is only one person on Anyone's Legend that can potentially survive and engage by those two. And that's going to be Xiaohao on the Maokai that can maybe double you out of something, maybe get some tankiness built up with their items as well. But This is a really good kind of aggressive mid-jungle from RareArt, which we've seen less of. They've played more towards stuff like the Rise, which we see in Banned Away, which can kind of take things a bit slower. It's a little faster paced in the mid-jungle than we're used to them, but it's kind of still got that solid laning foundation across the board for them.
Yeah, it does feel like it's, I will say, it feels like whoever gets it.
Difficult. I don't think they have many tools to, well, they have the tools, it's just the timing has to be immaculate for them to get away with things.
Really, really does. But we're going to jump straight onto the Rift. For game one of this best of three. RA 2-2, AL 0-5. They need to have a win come out here from the side of AL. And already you can see them getting that early priority into the brushes. They get the early Heimerdinger turrets down. We normally see teams against the Heimerdinger try and hard aggress into that, but looks like RA were just opting out of that, saying, look, we'd rather have the priority somewhere else on the map.
Yeah, and as I was kind of saying before, because the problem with Heimerdinger is that you can literally go down level 1 and clear his turrets, and he still has turrets for the first wave coming in, because if you go very early into the lane and place them as they have in those bushes, you get the kind of the charge oh, they don't get that ward, that's really annoying. You see the emote come out for that. So, track jungle path for Xiaohao. Leyan gonna have a bit more information. ZDZ has the W start, but ooh, actually does land it.
Some nice barrel combinations going, and kind of speaks true to what we were talking about a little bit earlier there in draft. Is that, you know, both teams going to be looking for that early priority. Both teams going to be looking to try and get an advantage as whatever they can, really, alongside anything really that's happening. Oh, unfortunate there with the barrel combo. Not able to make that one connect.
Yeah. The thing about the W start for Gangplank is that his passive relies on exploding barrels, or rather it comes up cooldown. So if you walk into melee range of a Gangplank level 1 who's W started, you can actually get burst out fairly quickly. So again, this kind of tech to make the most out of this laning phase. You've called it out, we talked about it. Laning phase can be pretty important in this game. We do see that Leyan going for a full bot side clear, hitting that level 3 quickly. And for me, it really is looking at how Leyan goes about looking to impact these lanes first, as we're going to talk about as well. The Maokai is playing reactively, these lanes are playing reactively. You don't have CC in that top lane, you don't have CC in that mid lane. Bot lane, you have to wait until that level 6. So Xiaohao feels like he has to be on, really on call for the rest of his lanes, on emergency response, because Leyan has many more options to play with early. It does mean that RareArt have to play through that. They have an obligation to, I feel like, to keep themselves ahead before they'll have ways to kind of overcome that. But still, I think it's much easier for them to do so than Annual's Legend, as we were saying before, to really respond to it.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing that we're looking at right now, is obviously, you know, you had first priority in terms of jungle picks for RA. They went for the Vi. The Maokai was picked into that one, and that's, you know, it's something we've seen a lot throughout this patch, is that the Vi's, you know, one, her build path, and two, just her straight up early game advantages that she has to be able to get that you know, Vault Breaker out, to be able to try and put pressure on should you be able to combo up with, as you say, the kind of combo CC with a laner. It just becomes a much bigger issue for teams earlier on in the game, but nothing's happened just yet. The Heimerdinger getting some priority here, as Southwind and Sssum trying to keep themselves within a decent setup. But
looking towards mid, Leon's maybe looking for something, flash charm potential. Not sure it's enough for a kill.
Oh, Strife does not land the charm, and we shall go a-wanting for anything more, as AL are dealing with the pressure so far. And like I said, you know, there's a lot.
Back off cooldown, friend. Not sure you ought to go over to that rush.
It's
a shame that we don't have the RASU in yet. That's actually only released yesterday. I got a load of games in on that. It feels a little weird, you know, when you played a champion for a very long time and visually something's changed. You know it's exactly the same because there's actually no changes to the kit, but there's still some just a little bit off. It'll take a little while to get used to that stride. On the old one, bot lane trading a little harder.
They are trading very hard right now, and Betty took a harassment of his own. And topside, it's EDC. All of a sudden, these teams, especially RA, they're getting a little bit antsy, a little bit more impatient, saying to themselves, all right, look, we need to try and start killing off these people. We need to start getting these advantages going, because we let this Gangplank and Heimerdinger go super late. That's going to be a problem for us.
Yeah, so we were kind of talking about how, like you were saying, really wanted to kind of get things moving. Hasn't really started in earnest just yet. We're getting to the point where level 6 on solo laners will be coming through next couple of waves, maybe we can see things go around a Herald fight. Maybe that's where Anion's Legend, maybe if they have themselves an Ashe ult, if they manage to delay the Herald being fought over for a little bit, and then something like those Maokai and Gangplank ults can come into the equation, that could be where they look to really start things off on themselves. Just tracking who is getting ahead in this game seems very even so far, even across the lanes, despite seeing Summoner take away from that bot side. So we've got a couple of minutes yet to really see where the big hammer blow first falls.
No real advantages being garnered, but with junglers and supports joining into the mid lane, both sides looking to try and make this one advantageous for their team, but neither going to be able to get anything from it. Those pinks shall be pretty much taken away, no problems whatsoever. Everyone starts to just get a little bit more anxious, a little bit more impatient as they wait to try and find some kind of advantage. One misstep in these moments can be the world of hurt for either team.
Yeah, level 6 hit on the Ahri, not hit on the junglers just yet. When we get that Vial, things get even more spooky. First Dragon is alive, which is why things were getting a little bit tense around that mid lane. Maybe trying to get mid into Dragon. Normally you see this start from bot lane push goes into early Dragon, but it felt like everyone rode up to the mid lane because that's where the playmaking tools were, with Shock Blast and Charms available. Quickly kind of tapping into this item build as well from the Ahri, because something that I really like to see from Ahri's is this first item, Dark Seal on your first back. It's a small thing, but suddenly it's like, if you're trying to get ahead of the game, you're trying to play around a burst combo of something like an Ahri and that Vi, the ability to stack up on a Dark Seal and maybe build into something like a Medjayce a little later on can actually be very, very important from the early game. So good to see that picked up from Strive, so it shows the Ignite as well. So picked up that Dark Seal, has the Ignite, almost has that Vial in the back pocket from his jungler as well. So watch around this mid-jungle TV2 to see where Leyan chooses to pull that trigger and whether there's an extra little benefit for the mid lane of Renekton.
Going to be spotted though. They know that he is invading on this top side, so CDZ's got to be careful. He's not got a huge amount of mana to work with. Still full health bar, but with level 6 hit by Leyan, having that cease and desist can be very, very dangerous. But Xiaohao very smartly kind of saying, look, you decide to go for top side, no Rift Herald to be taken just yet, so I'm going to take away the Dragon. That's just going to be an early objective here for AL, and very slow start to what we expected, and Sssum misses the Chain of Corruption. You got to be careful of the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, though, on the other side of it. You do have a cleanse on Sssum, but you do not want to have to burn that all willy-nilly. Won't just pull the trigger on it just yet. But yeah, very slow start. Feels like both teams happy to just trade back. They want to overcommit on either side. And
that's the big thing. Yeah. Because if you overcommit into the Maokai even early on, Maokai's not the best at aggressively going forward as a jungler when compared to a Vi or something similar to it. But it does feel like Anion's Legend, they were on the response side of this early game. But they don't have anyone in place to see this strike dive top side.
Yeah, flashes away. Can you get the cleanse off? I don't think it really matters, because the flash is good from Cube, and the first blood goes over to the Ahri, utilizing now, getting a stack on that Dark Seal.
Got two of them, gets the kill. So 2 stacks on the Dark Seal, uses that Ignite, which we saw picked up from that spell book, and it isn't involved with Leyan, which means, importantly, you still have that Vial to be used somewhere else. This could be pretty important, because you don't necessarily expect the Ahri to do a solo dive on the top side. Normally you expect someone like Leyan to be there as well. Maybe that caught AL a little bit off guard, because they knew that Leyan was likely going to be on that Herald, has that inventory too, so it's come a little bit later, but RareAtom, they've found something to play towards in this early game, and a little bit of golden pocket.
A little bit of gold, a little bit of plates on the bot side as well. You can see Southwind getting a fair amount of stacked off his spell thieves as well, so not bad whatsoever. Wow, Sssum just cannot hit these Chain of Corruptions. It just really feels like he's just
like that, Ashe. Wow.
I mean, I'm a spade a spade. Like, you know, like I'm not trying to get down on him, but that's 2 in a row we've been on bot side. He's just like sailed it off to the left of the champion he's been aiming for.
Remember the days when Varus ult was like 100 units wide? Literally the hitbox was the size of a Teemo, one of the smallest ones in the game. It was notorious as the most missed skill shot in League of Legends. We're not at that time anymore, but we're getting a little glimpse into it.
I remember those days. There's a lot to remember as well. You ever like look back on like ridiculous things in League of Legends that used to exist?
You know, some of them are more soon. Some of them I feel like are very recent, but they're still a long time ago. Like, I remember Release Zoe, and I remember that as a more recent thing. That's like 5 years ago now. That was Season 8. Same with Akali and Aurelia, that was a Season 8 was a pretty crazy time for those things, in fairness. But Release Jin Zhao, I wasn't playing back then, but like PvE, I would run like Alpha Test Twisted Fate, where his global teleport was a regular ability. Regular gank in this top side, Leyan, not pulling the ult just yet.
Nope, but he's gonna pull it now, and Cube ticks up a kill onto ZDZ. Exactly like you talked about, they didn't use that ultimate in the first gank, and they're able to use it there. SwordArt, ooh, that's a lot of, that's a spicy bit of damage to be taken underneath the turret, and that's 3v2, and this is the power of the Varus that we talk about so often, why we see it first picked, if not banned, because it's just that one bit of serrated Dirk damage just does so much in those first few levels.
It's just really annoying to deal with. Like, closing the distance to the Varus when you dive into him, it gives him a lot of free skill shots, it gives him a lot of early damage to kind of throw at you. And now, suddenly, with ZDZ once again struggling, and this Renekton, Cube's Renekton being ahead, that's a worry. We already talked about how the Vi later on to the game as well will be pretty free to just kind of run at someone in the side lane. This kind of play working out early for Rare, it's rough if you're anyone's legend. This is actually really rough because that wave state is just not in a good point. You are cross-mapping in bot lane. You cannot afford to walk up to the wave and topside that. It is very likely that someone is going to be on that side of the map responding to you because your jungler has shown bot side. So, another bit of gold going up to the Renekton, another bit of snowball building up behind Rare Atom, and now when we have a minute towards this next dragon, and of course Herald spawning the next couple of minutes as well, I'm getting really worried, even though it is just 12 minutes in, that you are going to not be able to stop Rare Atom's next couple of plays. You're about to get that vital off the cooldown, have the Spirit Rush back, and speaking of that, Z, this is the charm, but, or rather dodges out the charm, but still, no mana, not able to contest it to the
See the Rift Herald drop down as well, so that's going to be a bit of plate gold going over to Strife. He's going to need to throw in 1 or 2 auto attacks just to make sure he gets that second one, so nicely done. And we move now towards the dragon in 30 seconds. It looks like AL want to try and contest it, but they are down about just under 3,000 gold. TP is available for ZDZ and for Cube, not unleashed yet. As ZDZ, yeah, Core Drinker is just going to be far more powerful in these situations. The Gangplank ult comes out to clear the wave.
There's the
but
dominance.
It's to clear the wave!
It's to clear the wave because he understands that if he doesn't get that wave, he's literally going to die on the tower, but it means you don't have it for the fight.
That's what I was about to say. Now you don't have it for Xiaohao, who has to flash away. There's a good crystal arrow goes straight onto the Vi, so there's actually a bit of a turnaround here. As Xiaohao goes in, Stripe goes golden. Needs to get himself over the wall. Will use himself. Oh, the cleanse is good from Betty. And there's 2 quick kills there from AL. They didn't need the Gangplank gold. They've got themselves plenty right now. We will see Sssum looking for one more. Oh, Sssum! He's going to try and get another one. Not quite able to finish it off. PingZ will get himself that kill. The dragon will be started. The dragon will be claimed by AL. But oh my lord! They played on the edge of a knife and they just come out on top.
How the hell did AL win that fight? They had no right winning this. They didn't have the GP ult to commit to this. You have an Ahri Vi combo onto a load of squishy members towards this bot side. It really felt like this Maokai ult got a lot more value than it should have done. You do get the charm, you get an awful lot of damage coming through onto Xiaohao, but this turnaround Maokai ult is huge. And gotta call this out as well. You have a stopwatch on the Ahri, you have another charge of that ultimate, the Spirit Rush, and the Flash. Stripe should absolutely not die at that point. I feel like he overestimates his own HP bar, underestimates the damage coming through, and now you've lost that stopwatch, you've lost your flash, you've lost your ult, and you've lost this fight. Rare Atom, in what should have been a very clean win towards the spot side, give AL a bit of a freebie with overestimation on that play.
Yeah, and even things like the Eclipse coming out for PingZ, the item completions being available for AL just made it so much more difficult, and little small moments like that can be the difference maker. That was pre-Immortal Shield though, I will say, for Betty, so didn't have that particular safety net, didn't necessarily need it as he was going to go off and kill Strife, but now with the Rift Herald being started on the top side, this game's gotten an awful lot more even.
Yes.
And everything's going a little bit more AL favored.
It has, because we were talking about how AL, you know, they were getting snowballed on. That bot lane fight looked like it was going to be very difficult, but suddenly, Kingsley, who was, of course, coming in to replace Harder on the lineup, they subbed out Harder a couple of series into the split, is very powerful on this Jayce. And Jayce, if they're ahead, maybe can do some damage to someone on the side lane. It's not going to be difficult against something like this, Renekton or the Vi team, Renekton, Ahri, and the Vi kind of teaming up in side lanes, but it's a lot more than what we were talking about for AL just a little bit earlier, and now you're right, they are hitting breakpoints. They have got these first items. Now, Strive looking for these opportunistic picks, but even then, Strive has pet peeve of mine, gone for the Evercross in the Ahri and lost those Dark Seal stacks by dying in that last fight. The snowball, which could have come out of this mid jungle, has been stalled pretty well from AL, and alright, they're gonna have to find themselves another aggressive play, but that next Vi ult maybe won't have nearly as much impact as the last one.
Well, the Evercross coming in there, pretty damn clutch if I do say so myself. Strive misses the charm, but he does get the CC, and now they can keep moving forward. They're going to jump straight in onto the Jayce and just try and take him out. The Gangplank ultimate tells you nothing. Cube can honest, don't even go near him. He is so big on this Renekton. Strive's got a couple more moves. SwordArt gets caught out. They've still got the Rift Herald in mid lane. They're getting more and more resets for Strive with this Spirit Rush, and SwordArt just not able to be in position in time, gets caught out, and that's going to be RA just taking everything in that mid lane.
Okay, fair play. Rare Atom, they find the play. It is through the Ahri, the CC lock coming through, and even with the Maokai ult being fired out, the last Maokai ult that we saw was on top of stacked members for AL, where they could turn things around for it a bit of damage. That is absolutely not the case here. See that Xiaohao just trying to secure some mid lane vision. Sean misses Evercross hits, and the team manages to follow up with it. But it feels like AL, if you're looking for a play like this, you have to be way more prepared to stack, be able to return the damage very, very quickly. They just weren't in position for it. Now, looking at the implications for this, the next time you take a play like this, you won't have a mid lane tower. You're not going to have any vision around your mid lane as well. That's going to be having cleared out. It's not going to be very easy to protect this the entirety of your jungle at this point. And the pick combo that comes out of Rare Atom is going to be that more threatening because you don't have as much ability to play through the mid lane and then spread out to the rest of the map.
The big thing, as you mentioned, not only just the vision, but summoner spells, flashes, these things are important when you're trying to stack Dragon as your win condition. It is an Ocean Soul coming in here for AL, but now with a hell of a lot of towers going down around that Dragon, that's just so much. One, standing gold, and two, just control, like you mentioned, for the side of Rare Atom, and this is kind of why we expected to see them kind of use that early advantage. Yes, it did get turned around for them great from AL, but this is why we were so aware, I think is the best way to put it. Scales to keep him alive, but Strive will be forced to use the Spirit Rush of his own as the Maokai ultimate will come out. Now, important to recognize, you don't have the arrow and you won't have the ultimate from the Maokai either. We move towards this Dragon.
Moving towards it, but, you know, using a couple of his ultimates, not having that Maokai ult fight, not having that Blum Frail. I think we're just about back. Well, I can see it for now if you can't. We can see it set up before this Dragon coming through. Nymaera play-by-play, what a world that we are living in. Even without that Maokai ult, they do have those saplings. They have got the objective first. The ability to play around that range and a 3-man shot blast starting off the post very, very well. I do feel like Animus Legends doing a good job of controlling this Dragon area so far. It means that particularly not facing into that Varus ultimate, which is taken away, not facing into the Spirit Rush as well. A lot of tools which they would be worried about not on the table, despite being 5,000 gold behind. Find themselves an advantage in this play. Cube looking for one of their last remaining options to make this team fight a little more interesting. Looking for a flank, but of course these Sap do with them the other day on the full AP Maokai variant. It's a little early into the game to have the same amount of damage as he did, but Animus Legend doing the correct thing, taking it slowly, stopping Rare to get easy engagements, but Ultimate's now back available, but Ultimate throw it out by Animus Legend. GP, Maokai comboing up, lots of CC, lots of damage. There's a Dragon, it's a kill, and Rare Atom, they have just overstayed. They've just stayed too long without the right amount of cooldowns, without those ultimates to bring to bear, and despite Rare Atom being in the lead, they approach that fight wrong, and they get punished for it. Sheen, how you doing over there, buddy? You seeing anything yet? Wonderful. You enjoying the radio-like effect here? Maybe I can like try and describe to you in perfect detail what's happening on the Rift. That's very true. You know, I'd actually forgotten to call that out, despite being able to see it on my screens. That tells me that some people are more aware of some things than others. And we're going back into... We've reset after the Dragon at this point, coming back onto the map. And this is where I really feel like RareRat need to stick to what their composition is meant to be doing. You have a Vibe, it's very powerful. You couldn't find engages in that last team fight, partly due to not having the ultimate cooldowns on both that Vibe, particularly the Spirit Rush of the Ahri as well. But
I'm back.
once you're going out, you're back. Well, we're going out back into this wider map, going back out into side lanes. Dragon has spawned. Maybe RareRat can look to dive this GP again. Maybe try and force the death out of Pingzi on the side lane too. That would be something very powerful for them to work towards. But anyone's Legend, they've kind of just been chilling for the last few minutes. They've not had to worry about much.
No, they have not. I will say, I am back. My connection did go a little bit haywire. I don't know if stream could hear me or not, but we are here. Complications of an online broadcast. We are fixing them as quickly as we can. But as you mentioned, Soul Point, you've got AL kind of chilling for the moment, really, just kind of happy to take things go. As ZDZ, there's the Everfrost. They're going to be able to try and just completely CC ZDZ down. The Ashe Arrow shell do nothing. And that's going to be a nice little side lane pick. They are really putting the hurt onto ZDZ now on the side lanes.
Yeah, I mean, it's using the build for what it's supposed to be, realizing that you have a Zhonya's, you've got a lot of cooldown, you have that Everfrost. You are the one that is supposed to be starting the player's stride. It means that actually Leyan doesn't have to be the only go button. Getting a kill on the side lane, that is pretty much the bare minimum of what they need to do at this point in time. At least they're going to have their ultimates back up before the next big fight. Potentially around that Soul, 2 minutes 30 to go on that. It means that RareRat, with that kill under that bot lane turret, they can just stop that vision from anyone's Legend being built up around the bot side of the map, around that Dragon. But that's only half the job. You need to be able to capitalize into something else. You need to stop anyone's Legend reaching that objective first like they did that last time, and making things so hellish for you on the Dragon approach.
Yeah, you can see those two little saplings in the brush there to the left. Gonna be a bit annoying for anyone to really kind of walk up and deal with. But outside of that, it is still RA in the advantage. They are still 5,000 gold up. They are still in control of the Baron Pit, and honestly, the majority of the vision around most of these kind of, Crazy River onwards. So they are the ones that should be coming out on top. Shoulda, woulda, coulda is definitely a way you can kind of look at this one here.
Yeah, the thing is, like, you need to be able to leverage that gold, right? So, I mean, it's one of my pet peeves in League of Legends when we talk about gold leads. In games where the gold lead is actually really hard to use. Because in a game like this, RareRat, yes, they have burst combos. Doesn't really work when you're engaging into 5 people when it's a Maokai and GP ult layered on top of each other, because your gold just dies at that point. It is gone. It's away from the board. Someone like a Varus always has the ability to throw out that poke, but anyone's Legend, they have plenty of range to play with themselves. They have themselves Ashe Volleys, they have themselves Ashe Arrows.
Yeah, they do, but then you have a cleanse on the other side as Sssum keeps himself alive and healthy. They're going to go straight in on top of SwordArt. They're going to use the charm here on the Xiaohao, and they're trying to burst out the jungler, and they will get him now with no Gangplank ultimate. Plenty of low health bars here for the side of RA, but no Maokai means they should have priority over this Dragon Pit. I will say it's a little early because the Dragon's not spawned just yet.
And that is a huge point to bring up, because we're talking about that side lane pick being bare minimum. Getting a kill into the jungler, being able to roll forward into multiple picks in a row with that side lane and then into that mid lane. That's better, but it's still not job done. It's still only half that job, because as soon as that Dragon spawns, you are still going to have the ability for Maokai to come through. Bigger thing from this, no Maokai ult, no GP ult, and I don't think anyone's Legend can stall to a point where they'll get those cooldowns back, so I'm assuming now that this Dragon is going to go over to RareRat. I think they've managed to earn themselves that. They managed to earn themselves a bit more gold in pocket as well. But that's kind of, it's weird to think about RareRat stalling despite being, you know, 6k ahead or whatever it's totaled up to at this point. They are denying things away from anyone's Legend, rather than getting themselves into a position to win the game themselves, which is why they're looking for more picks.
Yeah, Xiaohao does have to use a stopwatch. That's now broken. Takes a bit of quarter of his HP from a pierced arrow with some lighted quivers stacked. You know that the dragon's been started. Yeah, the Maokai ult should be available now in about 2 seconds. The charm just shy of hitting its mark. There we go. The vines creeping forward as they try and make this one work. Xiaohao finds himself on the backside of the pit. Still has flash, still has the blast cone. He's in the back of it. They know he's there, but he doesn't get the smite down. The Vi shall follow him up the roll as they now get themselves in a little bit more of a separated skirmish. Flash from Betty keeps himself alive, but these health bars are exceptionally low now from the side of AL. Flash forward, Tribe finds himself the kill. Xiaohao does go down with the dragon secured and the jungler dead. We might see a rotation towards this Baron.
So, very close to steal from anyone's legend, but not close enough. They don't get themselves that soul, and now you have to imagine that Rare Adam, once again, having killed off the jungler, can head towards this Baron. And that will be a game-breaking advantage if they didn't have one already. Starting it up, how much potent can anyone's legend do to try and dissuade them from killing this?
Yeah, you're going to have to land a couple of accelerated shock blasts. A few barrels to say the least. 7,000 HP now on the Baron as they look to try and make this one work. There's the Gangplank ultimate. Chain of Corruption still available as they look to try and secure this one down. It misses off to the side. CDC down to about a third of his HP, which means they can no longer contest. Baron secured. 26 minutes into the game. You have a 7,000 gold lead. RA are in prime position. They just need to try and make it stick.
Yeah, and the Baron spawn being away from that dragon as well means that they can reset, get back out onto the map without worry of anything like a soul being claimed for AL before they get complete control of the map. Go back into this replay. I mean, it's kind of worrying that AL gets so close to sealing this. They weren't denied from the river. Xiaohao still finds his way back to the pit. We saw the Cassidus spellbook smite the other day. And that was a particularly crazy one in a similar situation, but alright, they're at least doing their best to dive forward, find picks around where they can, and the Charm Flash, cancel that animation, comes through as a good kill onto the Maokai. Xiaohao, despite being a big factor in these teamfights, has often died for being the first person into the fray as well, and AL, as soon as that Maokai's down, find it very hard to peel back and keep themselves in an area of the map.
I will say AL are kind of unlucky to not get that dragon. The smite did not come out from Leyan, so definitely a weird setup right there as the Renekton was the one to secure that particular objective. Charles, the cannon minion, now pushing in towards this mid lane.
Is that the name? Have you named him?
I have named him Charles. Any Baron up cannon minion is Charles, in my opinion.
Was there a reason for this? Just felt like it, or
you know
what was your inspiration?
My inspiration was I kind of missed Banner.
No,
not in a
no,
hang on.
No.
Not in a gameplay sense, but I just really liked a large minion. I thought it was cute. I thought it was cute.
Do you remember when Hullbreaker used to give the pirate hats to the minions as well on PvE? It wasn't there for very long, but we used to have pirate hat minions for the Hullbreaker. That's what
I'm saying, man. We're losing the fun out of the game, you know? Like, fair enough, like, you know what? Build it back up and just give me no stats. If it's a Baron minion, then give him, like, you know, I don't know, a pirate hat and make him 3 times the size. I don't know.
I personally would have called the minion Thomas, you know, like Visited by Thomas the Tank Engine days. I was a big fan. Used to have the Birdie Bus. Birdie Bus was a favorite character of mine. You know what? Maybe I do that next. Maybe this one can be Birdie, this kind of minion. In memory of those beloved characters from my
There you go. See? Have a bit of fun. Have a bit of fun.
That's the most valuable thing we could be talking about right now. Alright, they are using the Baron buff pretty well. They have taken every turret outside of the base. They have a huge gold lead. There's a lot of items to go for the gate.
Yep, absolutely. And the Heimerdinger shall not survive. The Vi is probably going to fall away the same way as you do see a hell of a lot thrown in on top of that Heimerdinger's grave. So now in a 4v4, we will see PingZ getting himself caught out with the charm, going golden, flashes away. There is a flash on Q, but he doesn't want to overcommit for it. So more and more summoners being burned, more and more advantages being garnered here. ZDZ, he's on nearly 3 items. I think he actually just hit 3 items with his Prowler's Claw, so he's almost there. But again, it just feels like it's too little too late now at this point. But now we got to be careful here as RA. You don't want to be recalling too lackadaisically and get yourself caught out. So they're going to back themselves up. But yeah, AL are just, again, it's the same issues we've been seeing pretty much all split from them. ZDZ getting hard focused, not really being able to deal with it. He is still scaling as a Gangplank should, but it does feel like it's kind of coming down to you need a mistake from RA rather than a stroke of brilliance from AL.
Yeah, and like, we kind of knew this from the start, right? AL were going to have to be the team responding more often than not. They don't have very aggressive tools. Yes, you have an Ashe arrow, but there's a Mikhail's in place. There's a cleanse in place. And you can see that RA, they're feeling it. They have the Medjais on Strive, my favorite item in the game. Great on Ahri, great for snowballing, and this team has snowballed. Having, oh my god, where is Southwind gone? Where'd he
That
go?
damage was insane right there. Southwind was not expecting the barrel, but you are a Karma with 0 armor. 0 armor on him right now. They're going to go forward on top of this, but the Vi's already dead. This looks like it's going to be a solo unless they can kill off Xiaohao. They can, and they've killed the Gangplank. Cube on the backside of this fight is a raid boss. Cube is ridiculously big. This is what an LPL Renekton can do, and they will pick up the ace. It looks like AL has found their opportunity, but Cube slammed the door on their foot.
Rare Atoms show that they like their vegetables cubed, not sliced. They slice, dice, and absolutely destroy that last team fight. After one barrel gave a little bit of false hope, was not nearly enough to deal with the Renekton on the backline. So it Cube a little while to get involved in those big team fights. Ends the game 6-0 on 5 though. Had a lot of resources put into him, given to him a little bit through ZDZ's mistakes, but more than enough to see Rare Atom through to a Game 1 victory.
That is how you solo Renekton. That is why we see so many top laners prioritize him regardless of meta, because he just gives you so much. And if you're able to play it and pilot it well, you can do things like that where you effectively 1v5. That was so damn good from Cube on that top side, and it really just highlighted why we thought this guy has been the catalyst of everything good from RA so far this split.
Yeah, I really want to highlight Leyan as well. Did a really good job in bits of that early game to punish CDC. Of course, it was the Strive roam up first, which kind of was the first death. The ult from the Vi kind of following up after that point. It didn't really show all of that reward very early on, but it did end up becoming just this unkillable Renekton in that backline. But I mean, this is the kind of game which I was a little bit worried about for AL, where actually the draft is like, it is an okay draft. But the way that you have been playing so far, it's very difficult to start things off well when you're only playing reactively, particularly when you have only a single target CC from something like that Ashe arrow to really start things off, and you know there's going to be a cleanse into you, and the Mikhail's is built up first by Southwind as well. Like, it felt like they really were just waiting for RA to make a mistake, and credit to them, the area where RA has typically not made many mistakes has been team fighting, just on like an identity kind of level, trying to take that style of composition into RA. They're 2-2, but their 2 losses were to 2 awesome team fighting, skirmishing teams in top esports and LNG. That is not the same as losing to 2 mid to bottom tier table teams. And I mean, I'm looking now at anyone's legend, and I feel like stylistically, philosophically, it's the wrong approach to take into this match.
Yeah, and it does feel like, again and again, it just feels like small little things are just not really going their way, and it does end up hurting them in the long run. ZDZ falling behind, that allows Cube to get up to that 3-4 item point. That allows the priority to kind of come away where you're not able to play actively. And I will say, like, in terms of engage, like hard engage, it's Ashe arrow or bust. There's not really a lot else for the side of AL that's going to be really beneficial or even consistent at setting up a pick. And one cleanse, one, spirit rush, plenty of mobility from the side of Southwind as well with that mantra W, but lots to be able to kind of get out of the way of it. It just feels like, yes, you've got a lot of powerful champions, but as they work together, you can see that there's not really a lot of cohesiveness between the composition.
Yeah, it's like having the Infinity Gauntlet, but it's just like a little bit of like pebbles you picked up off the beach. It's like, oh, that's a nice champion. That's a nice champion. It's kind of like, it's all nice stuff, but it's not really working towards a kind of a coherent whole at that point. But yeah, Rare Atom, again, a lot of the usual suspects stepping up and doing very well for themselves. We've seen Strive had a couple of good snowball skirmishy mid games. He had a couple of Silas games I remember being pretty good. Yeah, in fact, sent Dream on NIP 0-9 in Silas versus the Renekton matchup. That was a particular high point for that player. Then, of course, Leyan and Cube, we talked about so much as being big team fight initiators. So Rare Atom, I mean, for me, this is just so business as usual. We don't really have to talk too much about that. We said it an awful lot for a team that's only played now coming into their 5th series. We're getting to know this team pretty well, and they've just done what we know that they do really well.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean,
what do you want to say?
It is just kind of how it is. RA will take a 1-0 advantage in this best of 3. We're going to send it to a